ويبشر المؤمنين الذين يعملون الصالحات أن لهم أجرا كبيرا.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Sura Al-Nisa, verse 106. واستغفر الله إن الله كان غفورا رحيما. This ayah starts with commanding the Prophet to ask for forgiveness, to do istighfar. Does it show that the Prophet has committed a sin so that he needs to ask for forgiveness? As explained before about some other verses, mentioning istighfar does not necessitate existence of a sin. In this particular case, which is related to the story of some people in Medina who stole the property of another person and then accused an innocent Muslim of doing that act and committing that act. About this story, this ayah and these verses, not this only ayah, these verses were revealed. And the story started from the verse 105, which we explained in the previous session. They tried to convince the Prophet that the real thief is another person. And they tried to produce evidence to support their claim. But the Prophet is commanded by God to ask for a protection. There is a danger of committing sins and mistakes. So now he must ask God to protect him against the sins. So istighfar here does not mean that a sin has already been committed and he needs to ask for forgiving that sin. Rather, it means that the Prophet needs divine protection and divine help to distance himself from the sins. As we know about isma and infallibility, it doesn't mean that without God's help, a Prophet or an Imam is infallible. No, it is by his will, by his permission, by his support and will that a ma'soom and infallible person keeps himself pure from all pollutions. ولا تجادل عن الذين يختانون أنفسهم. Next verse. لا تجادل عن الذين يختانون أنفسهم. Don't argue on behalf of those who betray themselves. As mentioned, the actual offenders, they tried to release themselves from that sin and to claim that another person is the thief. And now God tells the Prophet, be careful not to defend the wrongdoers. لا تجادل, don't argue on their behalf. About whom? عن الذين يختانون أنفسهم, those who betray themselves. But have they really betrayed themselves, or they have betrayed other Muslims? Because if someone steals the property of another person, he has betrayed him. He has violated his rights, not his own right. But the ayah says, those who betray themselves. Allama Tabatabai mentions two explanations for this phrase. One is that anyone who commits any sin, he has indeed done injustice to himself. In Dua Kumail we read, ظَلَمْتُ نَفْسِي, I wronged myself. Any sin that I commit is an act of just injustice against my soul. Because finally I'm being punished for that. So in this sense, it makes sense to say that those who violated the rights of others, they have indeed betrayed themselves. This is one explanation. The other one is that the entire Muslim community is one family. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ. So if a brother steals the property of another brother, at the end, they have betrayed themselves, because this is one family. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ مَنْ كَانَ خَوَّانًا أَثِيمًا. God doesn't like those who are خَوَّان. خَوَّان comes from خِيانة, خائن, the person who betrays. But خَوَّان is صيغة مبالغة. It means the person who repeatedly betrays. It emphasizes the occurrence of the act. Athim also is a صفة مشبهة, means a person who is in a constant state of committing sins. Let's read the next verse. يستخفون من الناس ولا يستخفون من الله وهو معهم إذ يبيتون ما لا يرضى من القول. These wrongdoers, they try to hide things from people, but they do not hide it from God. The truth is not to be hidden from God. وهو معهم, while he is with them. When? إذ يبيتون. يبيتون comes from the word bayat. Bayat means night. If a person does something or says something at night, it is called tabyit. So what is the act that they did at night? Ayah explains, ما لا يرضى من القول. The speech which is not approved of. Negative talks. They have some negative talks and conversation during night, because they were planning. It was a plot against an innocent person. They did a wrong act, and now they are planning how to blame it on another person. God says, وَهُوَ مَعَهُمْ إِذْ يُبَيِّتُونَ. When they were doing this at night, God was with them. They cannot hide it from God. وَكَانَ اللَّهُ مَا يَعْمَلُونَ مُحِيطًا. Muhit means the person who encompasses. So he has knowledge over everything, and no one can hide anything from him. The next verse says, ها أنتم هؤلاء جادلتم عنهم في الحياة الدنيا. It addresses those who supported the offenders, the actual offenders, because some people also supported them. Quran addresses those people. Quran says, assume, suppose that you argued on their behalf in this world and you were successful. No one realized who was the actual offender. But what about the Day of Judgment? فَمَنْ يُجَادِلُ اللَّهَ عَنْهُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. So who will argue on their behalf in the Day of Judgment? وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ سُوءًا أَوْ يَظْلِمْ نَفْسَهُ ثُمَّ يَسْتَغْفِرِ اللَّهَ يَجِدِ اللَّهَ غَفُورًا رَحِيمًا. But God says, if you do repent to God, if you ask God for forgiveness after committing all these sins, don't lose hope. God is forgiving. So Ayah 110 is about the general fact of Tawbah and Ghufran, God's forgiveness. Whoever يعمل سوءا, does a wrong act, أو يظلم نفسه, or wrongs himself, does injustice to himself, then يستغفر الله, then he asks for forgiveness. He will find God forgiving and merciful. What's the difference between يعمل سوءا and يظلم نفسه? They both refer to bad and evil acts, but they must represent two different types of wrong acts. Alama says there is one possibility that يعمل سوءا means the cases of injustice against others. Though, as we said, all sins are an injustice against oneself, but that is in a general sense. In particular sense, we can divide the acts of sin into two types. Some sins are against oneself and some are against others. So يعمل سوءا may refer to those sins against others, and يظلم نفسه, those against oneself. Another possibility is that the first one, يعمل سوءا, refers to the minor sins, and the second one refers to the major sins. The next verse, وَمَنْ يَكْسِبْ إِثْمًا فَإِنَّمَا يَكْسِبُ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ. It's again a general fact. that whatever sin a person commits, it is against him. You must not think that this sin can be blamed on another person and he will have the burden of, no. وَمَنْ يَكْسِبْ إِثْمًا, whoever acquires a sin, فَإِنَّمَا, إِنَّمَا means exclusively, only. He only has acquired it against himself, his own soul. عَلَى means against. وَكَانَ اللَّهُ عَلِيمًا حَكِيمًا. The next verse says, وَمَنْ يَكْسِبْ خَطِيئَةً أَوْ إِثْمًا ثُمَّ يَرْمِ بِهِ بَرِيئًا. This ayah says, if you blame your sin on others, you have committed a second sin. So you have added to your misdeeds. So don't think that you have released yourself from the burden of the sin. Actually, you have added to it, because now you have also committed slander and accusation. Buhtan means slander. Ithman mubina means manifest sin. Let us focus on the first phrase of this verse. وَمَنْ يَكْسَبْ خَطِيئَةً أَوْ إِثْمًا. خَطِئَة and إِثْم, these two terms both can refer to sins. But again, we see a categorization of sins now. So we must concentrate on the literal meaning of these two words to see each word refers to what type of sins. Khata means if you do not reach your goal, you have an objective. If you reach it, it is called isaba. If you miss it, it is khata. It can be intentional or unintentional. It can be a mistake or a sin. But the word yaksib is used in this verse, so to acquire and to obtain something, so it must be something intentional. So we realize that khati'ah here does not refer to unintentional mistakes. It refers to the sins. But ithm also means the sin. But the word ithm and the roots athama in Arabic means an act which has some evil consequences. All sins have evil consequences, but some sins, their evil consequence is more clear, like committing murder or theft, violation of rights of others, because the person must be held accountable for what he has done. So ithm can refer to those types of sins with manifest and clear evil consequences. And other sins can be referred to as khati'ah in this verse, as Allama Tabatabai mentions in Tafsir Al-Mizan. And there is also one beautiful literary point here, yarmi bihi bari'a. As we said, yarmi bihi bari'a means to accuse an innocent person of a wrong act. But the word yarmi actually in Arabic is used for shooting at someone. In the wars, they used to shoot a person with arrow. So this is called ramya. It shows that if someone accuses his brother of an evil act, it is as if he's shooting at him with an arrow. The next verse says, وَلَوْلَا فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكَ وَرَحْمَتُهُ لَهَمَّت طَّائِفَةٌ. Were it not for God's grace and mercy upon you, a group of them, طَائِفَةٌ مِّنْهُمْ, they would have decided and intended to deceive you, يُضِلُّوكَ. But they only deceive themselves because they wanted to convince the Prophet that they are not the offenders and an innocent person is the offender. وَمَا يَضُرُّونَكَ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. They don't harm you at all. No harm they can cause for you. Allama says this phrase of the ayah refutes the idea held by some people that the Prophet in the first steps he was somehow influenced by those people and he had somehow decided to give a verdict on their favor, but then these verses were revealed and stopped him from doing that. But Allama says if that was the case, it would have been a case of darar. That is a harm, spiritual harm. But ayah says, وَمَا يَضُرُّونَكَ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. They don't harm you at all. وَأَنزَلَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكَ. God has revealed to you the book, the wisdom. God has taught you what you don't know. His grace upon you is great. The next verse talks about najwa. لا خير في كثير من نجواهم. Najwa means whispering, the secret talk. It reminds us of another verse which we just now recited. إذ يبيتون ما لا يرضى من القول. You remember those people who committed the evil act at night in secret? They planned against an innocent person. That was a case of najwa and secret talk. God says there is no good in much of their secret talks. لا خير في كثير من نجواهم. But this ayah is not only about these talks. It's a general fact. It says secret talks, there is no good in them except these ones. So it divides the secret talks into two types, good and bad ones. The good ones, من أمر بصدقة. If it is to command a charity, probably they got together to decide about giving a charity, or ma'ruf, a service, a good act, or إصلاح بين الناس, or reconciliation. Probably there are two people or two groups of people fighting, they have conflict, and now some Muslims, some believers, they get together and they have a secret session to decide how to settle the issue. So this can be a case of a good najwa. ومن يفعل ذلك ابتغاء مرضاه. Whoever does a secret, has najwa for these purposes. ابتغاء مرضات الله. Seeking God's pleasure. فسوف نؤتيه أجرا عظيما. Will give him a great reward. So that is the good type of najwa. What about the bad type of najwa? The next verse talks about it. وَمَنْ يُشَاقِقِ الرَّسُولِ. Those who oppose the Prophet. So the objective of their secret meeting is to plan against the Prophet, how to do something against the Prophet. يُشَاقِق comes from the word shaq, means section, part. If a group of people, they're walking, and one group takes one path and the other group takes another path different from the first one, they said this is mushaqqa. So because each one has selected one section, one part, one way, right? So وَمَنْ يُشَاقِقِ الرَّسُولِ means those who oppose the Prophet, because they have selected a section, a way opposite to what the Prophet has selected. مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ الْهُدَى. And this is not out of ignorance. No, they know the reality. They know the truth. مِنْ بَعْدِ, after the truth has become manifest for them. After guidance, al-hidayah, huda. وَيَتَّبِعْ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, follows the way, a way different from the way of the believers. So what happens to these people? What we expect? See, if someone opposes the Prophet, so we expect that he will end in fire, in hell. And this is mentioned in the ayah, وَنُصْلِهِ جَهَنَّمَ, means we make him enter the hell. But before that, there is a beautiful phrase here, نُوَلِّهِ مَا تَوَلَّى. Don't think that we will stop him from his evil act. No, indeed we will assist him. نُوَلِّهِ مَا تَوَلَّى. We will let him go toward the direction he has chosen. So this world is created for us to be tested. إِمَّا شَاكِرًا وَإِمَّا كَفُورًا. Either we decide to obey God or to disobey him. But whatever way we choose, God will assist us. كُلًّا نُمِدُّ هَؤُلَاءِ وَهَؤُلَاءِ. نُوَلِّهِ مَا تَوَلَّى is in line with that verse, كُلًّا نُمِدُّ هَؤُلَاءِ وَهَؤُلَاء in Surah Al-Isra. The next verse, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَغْفِرُ أَنْ يُشْرَكَ بِهِ. It talks about shirk and polytheism, ascribing partners to Allah, a case of disbelief. But it's a bit odd, because the previous verses did not talk about shirk and kufr. It was about disobedience to the Prophet. Allah says this ayah indicates that disobedience to the Prophet is in fact a case of shirk. It amounts to kufr and disbelief. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَغْفِرُ أَنْ يُشْرَكَ بِهِ, that God does not forgive shirk. But other sins below shirk, God can forgive. لمن يشاء, for whomever He wishes. ومن يشرك بالله فقد ضل ضلالا بعيدا. إن يدعون من دونه إلا إناثا. Ayah number 117 talks about gods, deities that people worshipped other than Allah, other than God. What type of gods are they worshipping? إن يدعون, they do not call upon. Dua means to call. But sometimes, and in some contexts like here, it means that to worship someone. إن يدعون من دونه إلا إناثا. So those gods other than Allah that they call upon and they worship, they're all enough. Enough means what? Many interpreters have translated this word to female, feminine. So the gods that they worship are female. And we know there are many cultures, ancient religions who believed in female gods. Even in Arabia, Lat and Uzza, the two famous idols, they are referred to by feminine pronouns in Arabic. But Allah Ta'ala says, not all gods which were worshipped were female. Among them, we can find some male as well. While this ayah is a categorical statement, it says all gods are enough. So enough must mean something different. Allah says the word in its literal meaning, anatha, the root of this word means to be receptive to an effect. Because you see, we have cause and effect. The cause is the source of an effect, and the effect is the one which receives it, which accepts it. So enough also means to be soft, something hard when it becomes soft. For that also the word anatha is used. Like a piece of iron, when it is exposed to much heat and finally it becomes soft, it is anith al-hadid. So Allah says, this ayah indicates that they worship gods, assuming that those deities, they are a source of effectuality and doing something, while it is not true. They are indeed exposed to, and they are subject to the acts. They are not the source of an act. The acts are done on them. And they don't have, they are not active. وَإِنْ يَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِ وَإِنْ يَدْعُونَ إِلَّا شَيْطَانًا مَرِيدًا. The second sentence says that you just call upon shaitan. And we said that dua here amounts to worshipping. But we know that not so many people worship Satan. There are some Satanists who technically are called worshippers of Satan. But other people, they may be doing some wrong acts, but they are not worshipping Satan. Allah says here, as we also read in Surah Yasin, أَلَمْ أَعْهَدْ إِلَيْكُمْ يَا بَنِي آدَمَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا الشَّيْطَانِ. Didn't I take a covenant from you not to worship shaitan? It shows that the people, many people, they violated, those who go to hell, they have violated this promise, this covenant. So it shows that disobedience to God, committing sins, and following shaitan amounts to worshipping shaitan. إِن يَدْعُونَ إِلَّا شَيْطَانًا مَرِيدًا. Marid means what? Marid comes from the word from the root marada. Shajaratun marda. Shajara means tree. Shajaratun marda means a tree whose leaves all have fallen down. So now it is empty from the leaves, totally. So marid is someone or something which is empty from all goodness. There is no goodness in it. It's absolute evil. لعنه الله. Next verse says, God cursed him. We know all about the story of creation of Adam and the conversation between God and Satan when Adam was created and when he was commanded to prostrate and when he refused that. He was subject to God's curse. وَقَالَ لَأَتَّخِذَنَّ مِنْ عِبَادِكَ نَصِيبًا مَفْرُوضًا. But then he told God that I will misguide some of your servants. So لَأَتَّخِذ, I will take نصيبا, a share from your people, from your servants. So some of them, I will definitely, لَأَتَّخِذَنَّ, with it is in emphatic form. Definitely I will take a share. It means I will misguide them. And he will explain in the next verse. وَلَأُضِلَّنَّهُمْ وَلَأُمَنِّيَنَّهُمْ, I will misguide them. I will, أُمَنِّيَنَّهُمْ means I will give them hope. They're false hopes. I will give them hope. They're all delusions, as next verse explains. وَلَآمُرَنَّهُمْ, I will command them to do what? And what they will do after Shaitan's command. فَلَيُبَتِّكُنَّ آذَانَ الْأَنْعَامِ, they will slit the ears of animals, the ears of the livestock. What does it mean? What's the relation between An'am and Satan here? To understand this part of the ayah, we must refer to some other verses in Quran, like the ayah in Surah An'am, مَا جَعَلَ اللَّهُ مِنْ بَحِيرَةٍ مَا جَعَلَ اللَّهُ مِنْ بَحِيرَةٍ وَلَا وَصِيلَةٍ مَا جَعَلَ اللَّهُ مِنْ بَحِيرَةٍ وَلَا سَائِبَةٍ وَلَا وَصِيلَةٍ وَلَا حَمٍ, if I'm not mistaken in reciting the ayah. The 4 types of animals, I mean some animals in certain conditions. For example, a goat, a sheep, a camel in a certain condition, which according to Arabs in the age of Jahiliyyah, age of ignorance, was forbidden. It was not forbidden by God. They did not follow God in legislating permission or prohibition. They themselves innovated some rulings, and it is bid'ah, because legislation is only by God. Sharia is only by God. But the ayah says that those rulings that they gave in the age of Jahiliyyah, that was instigated by Shaitan. Said they will slit the ears of animals, because to mark the animal that this is forbidden, they slit their ears. وَلَآمُرَنَّهُمْ, it continues, I will command them, فَلَيُغَيِّرُنَّ خَلْقَ اللَّهِ, they will change the creation of Allah. What does it mean? There are some different views about interpretation of this part of the ayah. There is a famous interpretation saying that they will change, for example, they will alter the way the body of man is created. For example, we had, unfortunately, in some cultures and traditions, that they castrated slaves or some people as a punishment. So this castration is against the way God created man. It is to deprive a person from a part of his body, or mutilation that they did to the dead people sometimes in the wars, after the wars, or even to living people as a punishment. So they are all cases of changing God's creation, or even some sexual orientations which are against the way God created man. God created man in a way that a man and a woman, they form a family. But there are some other inclinations and orientations which are against this divine creation. So that is also another instance of فَلَا يُغَيِّرُنَّ خَلْقَ اللَّهِ. This is the first interpretation. Allah Ta'ala says there is also a second possibility, and that is to deviate from the true faith. That also can be called taghyir, and change and alteration of creation of God, because we know that the religion, the faith, is based on fitrah, on the divine nature of man. It is in full harmony with the soul of the man, with the way that man is created. So anyone who deviates from faith, he has altered his fitrah and the khalqullah, the creation of Allah. وَمَنْ يَتَخِذِ الشَّيْطَانَ وَلِيًّا مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ فَقَدْ خَسِرَ خُسْرَانًا مُبِينًا. Whoever takes any guardian, whoever takes Satan as the guardian is in manifest loss. The next ayah explains why is it a manifest loss, a great loss. Because يَعِدُهُمْ وَيُمَنِّيهِمْ, because Shaitan promises them وَيُمَنِّيهِمْ, and give them hopes, but وَمَا يَعِدُهُمُ الشَّيْطَانِ إِلَّا غُرُورًا. Whatever he promises, all those hopes are just غرور, delusions, no reality. أُولَٰئِكَ مَأْوَاهُمْ جَهَنَّمْ, their abode is hell. وَلَا يَجِدُونَ عَنْهَا مَحِيصًا, they will not find any mahis. Mahis means a place to escape. So they don't find any way to escape from the fire. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.